In today's digital world, a cyber attack on your organization, it's really not a question of if it's going to happen, it's a question of when. So the real question you need to ask yourself is, when it does happen, are you going to be ready? Well, let's dive into the playbook that's designed to prepare you for exactly that, the inevitable. Okay, so first things first. To really get why having a plan is so critical, you've got to appreciate the sheer scale of the threat we're all up against. And believe me, it is absolutely relentless, and it is massive. Just take a look at this number right here, 300 million. Every single year, that's how many new types of malware security experts think are being unleashed on the world. And that number, it's only going up. So you have to wonder, right? How can any organization, big or small, possibly keep up with a constant flood of new threats like that? And that leads us to the million-dollar question, the one every single organization has to answer. Sooner or later, one of those threats is going to get through your defenses. It's just a numbers game. So what happens then? What happens next? Is it total chaos, or do you have a plan ready to go? And that's exactly where this idea of incident response comes into play. The best way to think about it is like a fire drill before a cyber attack. It's not about a frantic, panicked reaction. No. It's a well-rehearsed plan for a digital disaster. You practice it, everyone knows their role, and you know the exact steps to take to minimize the damage. Because let's be clear, the moments right after you discover a breach, that is absolutely not the time to start making things up as you go. A methodical, pre-planned response is literally the thing that separates a minor hiccup from a full-blown company-ending catastrophe. So let's put a formal definition on this, shall we? Incident response, or IR, as you'll often hear it called, is just that, an organized approach. It's a framework, a playbook really, that's designed to guide a security team from the very first sign of trouble all the way through getting things back to normal, and even beyond that. And this whole framework, it's really built on 6 core stages. This is the playbook that security pros everywhere use to navigate the chaos of a cyber attack. It all starts with preparation. Then you move to identification, containment, eradication, recovery, and finally, and this one is so important, lessons learned. All right, so to make this all feel a bit more real, let's actually walk through these stages. We're going to use a super common scenario. Imagine a single computer at a company has just been hit with some nasty malware. Okay, step 1, preparation. And here's the thing you have to get. The most important stage of incident response actually happens before an attack ever takes place. Seriously, preparation is everything. This is where you do all the groundwork. Things like knowing what your IT assets are, understanding what your network traffic looks like on a normal day, having a communication plan locked and loaded, and, of course, testing that plan over and over again. Now for step 2, identification. This is the moment, right? The alarm bells are going off. The security team basically goes on a digital hunt. They're digging through logs, trying to spot weird processes running, analyzing all the network traffic for any sign of an intruder. The main goal here is simple. First, confirm that yes, a breach has actually happened. And second, figure out exactly what they're dealing with. And man, this really captures the feeling of a live incident. Because as soon as that breach is identified, the clock is ticking, loudly. Every single second you waste gives the attacker more time to burrow deeper into your network, to steal more data, and just to cause more damage. The pressure to act, and act fast, is just immense. So, what do? Step 3, containment. Your first priority is to stop the bleeding. Simple as that. You have to immediately pull that compromised machine off the network. Unplug it, disconnect any drives, kill any suspicious programs running on it. You're basically building a digital wall around the problem to make sure it can't spread anywhere else. Okay, so once you've contained the threat, the team moves on to eradication and recovery, cleaning up the mess and getting things back online. And then comes that lessons learned phase, asking how did this happen? How do we stop it from happening again? But here's the catch. This playbook isn't a one-size-fits-all kind of deal, because not all devices are the same, right? Containing a threat on an office desktop, well, that's a whole different ballgame than dealing with a compromised mobile phone that's out in the wild somewhere. Think about it. Your computer's at the office. They usually have way more security tools on them, and it's just plain easier to see what's happening on the network. But mobile devices? That's a whole different story. There's a much bigger risk of them being physically lost or stolen. Plus, you've got bring-your-own-device policies that can create all sorts of security gaps. And on top of that, they just have fewer built-in defenses. Your IR plan has to be flexible enough to handle these totally unique challenges. And okay, let's add another layer of complexity, shall we?
What happens when your data and your servers aren't even in your building? Yeah, we're talking about the cloud. The rise of the cloud adds a whole new tricky layer to incident response.
When it comes to the cloud, there's one fundamental rule you have to understand. Security is a shared responsibility. It's not just your problem, but it's not just the cloud provider's problem either. You're partners in this, and you both have really specific roles to play in keeping everything secure. So, here's how that breaks down. The cloud provider, think Amazon, Google, Microsoft, they're responsible for the security of the cloud. That's the physical buildings, the big network pipes, the hardware. But you are responsible for security in the cloud, and that changes everything for your response plan. You can't just run down to the server room and unplug a machine anymore. To figure out what happened, you're going to rely on logs from your vendor. Your plan needs to have all the right API keys and credentials ready to go from minute one. The bottom line is, you can't just outsource your security responsibilities.
So, to secure your part of the cloud, you need what's called a defense in-depth strategy. It's like putting multiple locks on your door. You're building several layers of security, from the basic platform level up to how you operate things day to day, all the way to having advanced tools that monitor what's going on. Because remember, at the end of the day, it's on you to see and stop threats inside your own cloud environment.
And all of this, it really leads to a huge fundamental shift in how we need to think about cybersecurity today.
See, the old way of thinking was all about building this perfect, impenetrable fortress. But with 300 million new threats a year, it's an impossible battle to win. The goal today has shifted. The new goal is resilience. It's about being so well prepared, so practiced, that when an attack does happen, and it will, you can respond quickly, respond effectively, and keep the damage to an absolute minimum. And there's a quote from our source material that just sums up this whole philosophy perfectly. It says, "Establish and assume breach mindset into the organization so that no attack comes as a shock." Think about that. It's not about being negative or paranoid. It's about being realistic and, most importantly, being prepared. So I'm going to leave you with this one final thought, a question to take back with you. Is your organization truly ready for when, not if, an attack happens? Because make no mistake, that moment is coming.